The estate of Miss Voletta Wallace, who was the mother of the late rapper Christopher Wallace, aka the Notorious B.I.G. and Biggie Smalls, is now suing the R&B singer and wife, widow of the late rapper, Miss Faith Evans. Let's talk about it. All right, as you can see here in this lawsuit that we have here, Wayne Barrow, if I'm not pronouncing his name correct, as the trustee of the Voletta Wallace Revocable Trust, is suing Faith Evans in a state court of Delaware. And also, one of the other defendants is also named here as Notorious B.I.G. LLC, but we'll get into that in a second. But if you look at the complaint here, it starts off talking about how this all came about and what's going on. So if you look here, it says, Miss Voletta Wallace was the mother of Christopher G.L. Wallace, also known as Notorious B.I.G. and Biggie Smalls. Following her son's untimely death in 1997, Miss Wallace diligently managed and grew the company holding his intellectual property called the Notorious B.I.G. LLC, which is one of the parties being sued right now, along with Faith Evans. And she managed this intellectual property into a highly successful enterprise and significantly expanded the value of his estate. Indeed, shortly before her death earlier this year, Ms. Wallace negotiated and approved a transformative deal with a prominent independent music publisher selling, and of course, the amount is redacted, and the transaction closed on March 2025. Now, if you remember, I actually did a video on this where I talked about the sale of his properties. In this video right here, as you can see, the sale of his intellectual property, that this very same estate that's suing now, they also did this deal, which is what this lawsuit is also leading up to. Now, it says right here in the lawsuit, again, Mr. Barrow, who's also been named a trustee of this estate and in this trust, a manager and trusted advisor to the Notorious B.I.G., also worked closely with Miss Wallace for decades and played a central role in helping her manage the LLC and preserve her son's legacy. But then in 2020, Miss Wallace appointed Mr. Barrow as trustee of her trust and as executor of her estate. At the same time, Miss Wallace, who owned 50% interest in the Notorious B.I.G. LLC, she assigned her entire 50% interest to the trust, which was permitted, which was a permitted transferee under the LLC's operating agreement. It says 50% of the LLC that wasn't owned by the trust was held by the defendant, Miss Faith Evans. As you see here, that's why she's being sued. Miss Faith Evans was married to the Notorious B.I.G., but in the process of divorcing him at the time of his death, Miss Wallace and Miss Evans were co-managers of the LLC. However, Miss Evans played little to no role in the management and was not involved in the day-to-day operations, which was handled exclusively by Miss Wallace and Mr. Barrow. Mr. Barrow, again, is the plaintiff here in this lawsuit. Miss Wallace died February 21st, 2025. The trust interest in the LLC will ultimately be distributed to the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation. Now, so as you can see here, Ms. Wallace owned, she had a trust, and she had this man, Mr. Barrow, as the trustee. And it just says here that she was going to take her 50% interest in the LLC and put it all into the trust. Well, her entire 50% interest into the trust. So what happened here? Following her death, Miss Faith Evans seized control of the LLC by refusing to recognize that the trust as a 50% member. Worse, she wrongfully withheld the trust share of the net sale proceeds in the amount of, and of course the amount is redacted because remember, as I told you, that they report the deal was worth $100 million, but no one ever confirmed the actual details of the deal. So, and as you can see here, it's still redacted. So we don't know, but it was reported that the deal was worth over $100 million, but no one really knows because the actual buyers of the intellectual property never disclosed it, and neither did the estate. So we don't know, but still the amount's redacted here. It says, although she has signed documents confirming that the trust holds a 50% membership interest in the LLC and that Mr. Barrow serves as trustee, Ms. Evans initially claimed that, quote, she was not aware of the trust memberships and questioned both the existence of the trust and Mr. Barrow authority to act on its behalf. And for months, Ms. Evans insisted on unnecessary, ever-shifting demands for verification of facts already in her possession, despite Mr. Barrow providing her with all the relevant materials, including documents far exceeding what she was entitled to. Ms. Evans continues to refuse to acknowledge the trust membership interest or its entitlements to distribution. She has also failed to provide Mr. Barrow with the access to the LLC's document that has kept him entirely in the dark about the business and affairs of the LLC. Ms. Evans' actions are particularly troubling, given that, unlike Mr. Barrow, she has never previously been involved in the LLC's management and has conceded that she is not familiar with the affairs of the LLC and is, quote, getting up to speed. And it says here, it is indisputable. Now remember, this lawsuit is all allegations, but this is what the plaintiff here, Mr. Barrow, as trustees, is alleging. He says, it is indisputable that Ms. Evans has breached her fiduciary duties to the trust and violated the terms of the LLC agreement, and she has failed to cure these breaches despite being given multiple opportunities to do so. Her continued misconduct and disregard for her obligations warrant her removal as manager of the LLC. Wow, they are really, the plaintiff here is really going in here. It says, accordingly, Mr. Barrow brings his action seeking what? Now, this is what he's suing for, okay? This is what the Mr. Barrow is suing for. Here we go. It says he is seeking A, that the trust is a 50% member of the LLC. B, Mr. Barrow, as trustee of the trust, is entitled to distributions from the LLC, including the immediate distribution of whatever amount that what the sale was for the catalog, and that Mrs. Evans has been wrongfully withholding. And C, Mr. Barrow, as trustee of the trust, is entitled to all books, papers, and records of the LLC. Finally, Mr. Barrow also seeks specific performance, compelling compliance with the deadlock resolution provision of the LLC operating agreement so that Mrs. Evans may be removed as manager and Mr. Barrow may be appointed as successor manager of the LLC. This is what this is all about. So apparently, the plaintiff here, Mr. Barrow, is alleging that not only that Faith Evans doesn't even know what's going on with the LLC. She's kept them in the dark about it, and she's getting up to speed. She has no experience. Again, this is all allegations on the plaintiff's part. And now the plaintiff is asking the court of Delaware to, hey, I want all these things done. And if you look here in the lawsuit, and the things he just mentioned, you go to his prayer for relief, same thing. He wants all these things. He wants not only the, as you can see here, a declaration that Voletta Wallace Revocable Trust is a 50% member, as we just stated, of the Notorious B.I.G LLC, a declaration that the trust is entitled to distributions, including the immediate distribution of the proceeds of the asset sale, and also order that the trustee of the Voletta Wallace Revocable Trust is entitled to books, papers, records of the Notorious B.I.G LLC requested in the demand, including an asset purchase agreement, an order compelling compliance, and an award, whichever the court deems necessary. As you can see here, this is going to be something because, of course, you all know what the Notorious B.I.G meant to hip hop, meant to our community. He's definitely a legend. Rest in peace to Christopher Wallace, aka Notorious B.I.G, Biggie Smalls. But now the estate of his mother, who ultimately took over his catalog, and another trust, they're having issues with the other 50% owner, which is the defendant here. And they're asking that not only that she's been wrongfully withholding money, they're also alleging that she should be removed as manager of the Notorious B.I.G LLC. This is going to be interesting. I think this is definitely a case to watch. Again, all allegations. I'm not sure of what Faith Evans's background is regarding running an LLC or running companies dealing with intellectual properties, inspections, books, papers. I have no idea. Again, these are all allegations, and I'm sure everything will come out in discovery. But we will see. This is something to follow. So you tell me what you think. Do you think this case has some merit here, or you think Faith Evans has wrongfully withheld the money from that big sale that I talked about on the old video regarding the sale of Notorious B.I.G's intellectual property? Or do you think that maybe, you know, something else is going on here? I don't know, but I would love to hear from you. Like, comment, share, subscribe. It's your brother, Attorney Jeff.